Phuthi, Kahe, welcome. Phuthi, to you first. Where do you see the greatest value from a coalition like the ABLC for you and, more broadly, Africa and the world?
I think when you take into account the fact that the developed countries are the ones that account for 2/3 of the global emissions, and the rest of the developing market accounts for a lot less of that, and at the same time, from a poverty perspective, is a lot more vulnerable. It brings into question the importance of ensuring that we can work collectively in ensuring that we can comply with the emissions that we want to reduce. And so from that perspective, it is very important that we're able to work together as the ABLC to ensure that we are working and undertaking all that we need to do in achieving what we need to achieve in terms of emissions.
Yeah, and if I were to add, for the first time, we've seen companies across Africa coming together. They've never come together in a way like this before. The politicians, the countries, the AU comes together on the political side, but on the private sector side, coming together to make commitments, to work together is, I think, really, really powerful. And it's a first for Africa, but it's also an opportunity to get the investment and the population moving in that direction.
Why is it so critical for African companies to speak with one voice on a global stage?
I think it's important for us to speak together with one voice because the issue is just too important for one organization to try and tackle on their own. We all need to come together so that we can comprehensively find solutions that are workable for all of our nations within the continent. And so that is what makes the ABLC such an important coalition, to ensure that we can address all these issues that we need to address, and in a manner that is doable for all of the countries, because I mentioned the issues around access to finance and all of that. And so I think when business comes together, we are able to ensure that we are able to work together in addressing all of these issues.
What are some of the stumbling blocks that have been faced in bringing companies together?
I think it's an interesting question because the diversity of Africa, north, south, east, west, languages, cultures, ways of working has been really interesting because every company in Africa grew up in a system, and to come together to find that common ground, it's actually not been that difficult. Despite that, you'd expect that diversity to have had a challenge, but the reality is that there has been an embrace that we are one continent with one set of problems that are diverse depending on where we are, but the reality is we can come together on that.
Phuthi, as a business leader, how are you leading from the front when it comes to climate action? What are you doing?
I think it's important in terms of the work that you're doing as an organization. So we are a member of the UNGC. We participate in all of the activities. However, through the ABLC, we can ensure that we are working together. And so firstly, encouraging more organizations to ensure that they are working with respect to ensuring that they are less of an emitter than they could potentially be. And also, apart from that, it is the reality that we live in a continent where we have the youngest population. And so from that perspective, it becomes very important that we are able to ensure that young people are also learning a lot more and understanding the importance of having a clean environment. And so therefore, dealing with all of these issues.
An interesting statistic is that 35 of the 40 most vulnerable countries to climate change in the world are in Africa. And so as companies come together to work on mitigation, they're also, interestingly enough, focusing on adaptation and resilience in Africa. And that's where the rubber hits the road. As we're thinking about future generations, we need to make as many investments and more, perhaps, in adaptation and resilience as we are in mitigation.
Kahe, Phuthi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.